New year, new me? Cute. But how about new year, new money? With Experian, you can actually take control of your
before pests move in.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Hope you all are having a good day. We have some breaking news coming out of Russia. Hopefully, everything gets straightened out with this Russia and NATO thing. Romania has not invoked Article 4 yet, so we're still seeing what's going to be unfolding there. Let's get this over here on the picture for y'all.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I own a pet store. Yeah. I used to work in the corporate world, which was great.
1 second, y'all.
Like
Apologize. 1 second, y'all. 1 second, I apologize. These are not syncing up.
That's just not happening. So, guess it's time for a backup plan. Well, Zoe, listen. You really want a baby? We here at Single Mothers and Proud partners from inception to graduation, everything in between. We can be here for you.
There we go.
Great. Dakota was born right here. It was very
All right, yeah, I'll apologize for that.
right where you're sitting, actually.
Let's get back to it.
Within hours of Romania facing Russian drones, a chilling, direct warning from Moscow has pushed tensions between Russia and NATO to a breaking point. Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev has issued a deadly ultimatum to European leaders, telling them to, quote, shut up, and warning European citizens that they will no longer be able to sleep peacefully.
European impotents are making a fuss about the crash of some drone into a Romanian residential building. So get ready. This will continue. There's a war going on, and the citizens of EU states won't be able to sleep peacefully. So shut up. This is just the beginning.
Medvedev's extraordinary outburst came in fierce response to a dangerous new escalation along NATO's eastern frontier. Overnight, a Russian drone, part of a massive swarm of over 230 weapons targeted at Ukraine, crossed the border and slammed into a residential apartment building in the Romanian city of Galați. The impact triggered a fire and left 2 civilians injured, marking the first time NATO residents have been wounded by the conflict.
Last night, we had a serious incident in which 2 Romanian citizens were injured, and the entire responsibility for this incident lies with Russia, a country that has been waging a war of aggression against Ukraine for more than 4 years. In response to this situation, the Consul General of the Russian Federation in Constanța has been declared persona non grata, and the Consulate General of the Russian Federation in Constanța will be closed.
The retaliation from Bucharest was swift and unprecedented. Romanian President Nicu Jordan directly blamed Moscow, ordered the immediate closure of the Russian consulate in Constanța, and expelled its consul general. While Romanian military leaders clarified this was not a deliberate, direct attack on the country, they warned that Russia's relentless proximity is an ongoing threat to the entire region. NATO allies have quickly rallied behind Romania, preparing a major coordinated pushback. In Berlin, government officials condemned Russia's escalating missile terror, explicitly pointing to Moscow's recent deployment of experimental Oreshnik missiles against civilian infrastructure.
The Chancellor stated that the drone incident in Romania demonstrates Russia's determination to further escalate this war. Germany firmly stands by its NATO allies, including Romania. It once again shows that we, as NATO and as an alliance, are very determined to confront these threats, and that we are, of course, ready to defend every inch of the alliance's territory.
In Paris, the diplomatic backlash intensified. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot summoned the Russian ambassador, revealing that Moscow has embarked on an aggressive campaign of direct intimidation against European diplomatic personnel.
I want to begin by condemning this irresponsible act by Russia. I summoned the Russian ambassador to France at 9:45 a.m. this morning to tell him that the massive strikes against civilians last weekend, the threats against French and European diplomats in Moscow, and this latest irresponsible act are all acts of intimidation that are both reckless and pointless.
But Moscow is doubling down. Medvedev labeled European leaders imbecile-like scumbags, claiming their arms shipments, intelligence sharing, and joint drone production facilities make them direct participants in the war. With Romania calling for an immediate acceleration of NATO anti-drone capabilities and Russia warning that the terror is just beginning, the war's borders have blurred, setting the stage for a dangerous geopolitical showdown.
Now we see that they're talking about having conflicts going on around the area around Romania. I mean, Romania should invoke Article 4.
Granger makes it easy to find and order the products your team depends on around the clock.
I'm just not interested. Okay. Would you please take it outside? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. This is not a good time for me. Okay, I'm going through some changes. Menopause? Menopause? Seriously? How old do you think I am? Let's start.
Citizens of the NATO member state have been hurt.
Start that over
2
for you.
people were injured and around 70 people. European leaders are condemning Russia after a drone crashed into an apartment block in the Romanian city of Galați, close to the border with Ukraine. Fragments of Russian drones have fallen on Romanian territory many times, but this is the first time citizens of the NATO member state have been hurt. 2 people were injured and around 70 people evacuated after the drone blast caused a fire. Bucharest has accused Moscow of a serious and irresponsible escalation and summoned the Russian ambassador. The head of NATO says that Russia's reckless behaviour is a danger to us all and assured absolute solidarity with Romania. Well, let's speak to our correspondent Nick Thorpe, who joins us from neighbouring Hungary. Nick, tell us all of the details about this strike and the Romanian response to it.
Sure. Well, as far as we understand, about 2 o'clock this morning, this drone was first detected, and within 4 minutes of the Romanian security forces detecting it, it struck a 10-storey block of flats in Galați. This is a significant port city, 200,000 or so inhabitants, and in the subsequent explosion and fire. So this was not just a fragment of a drone as we've seen before, but actually an armed drone which exploded on impact, injuring a 54-year-old woman and a 14-year-old child. The Romanians, in their response, the deputy head of the armed forces said this does not constitute an attack on Romania, but it's the consequence of an attack on neighbouring Ukraine.
And the response has been widespread, hasn't it, from NATO allies and also European Union officials?
That's right. Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, immediately rang Nicu Jordan, the Romanian president. There have been other messages also from other EU and NATO countries. The president of Romania, Nicu Jordan, has summoned a meeting which is beginning as we speak now of the Supreme Defence Council, and the Russian ambassador has been summoned. I mean, he's been summoned before. He normally gets a rap on the wrists, as it were. I think there is some talk, unofficially in Romania this time, of needing a much stronger response, perhaps even the expulsion of the Russian ambassador from Bucharest. But I think that's a move that Romania would not take on its own. Obviously, strong consultations between Romania this morning and NATO and EU allies.
And as far as the target of this, if it is indeed a target, is concerned, Galați is an important port for Romania.
That's right. It's on the river Danube, and the Danube here, or in the Delta region, Danube Delta region nearby on the Black Sea, obviously is the border with Ukraine and further up with Moldova. This is a regular site of attacks. The port of Reni and of Ismail on the Ukrainian side of the border has been hit many times before. The cargo infrastructure, the grain infrastructure, the port infrastructure. But actually the nearest Ukrainian target is 18 kilometers from the site of this explosion in Galați this morning. So this is suggesting that it wasn't just a stray drone, and some people on the Romanian military side this morning wondering wondering if this is the Russians testing Romania and therefore NATO's defence capabilities and what they actually do in such a case, whether they would invoke Article 5, the mutual defence, mutual protection clause of the NATO treaties, or whether it's they will take a calmer attitude to it.
Nick, for the moment, thank you very much. Nick Thorpe, our correspondent in Hungary. Let's speak to military analyst and host of the BBC Security Brief, Mikey Kay. Mikey, what are your initial observations about this drone incident in Romania?
Yeah, hi, Martin. I think I'm just going to pick up really firstly on the NATO Article 5 piece, and I think it's important. NATO's Article 5 effectively is an attack on one, is an attack on all, it's collective self-defense. But there is an important part in that language about that, which is it has to be a sustained attack. So a one-off wouldn't necessarily invoke Article 5. And I think this is so far from what we've seen is a one-off. Now, you know, Russia's been putting these one-way attack drones, they're called the Geran 2, which is effectively a blueprint from the Iranian Shahed 136, which we've seen flying in the Persian Gulf airspace. They're putting about 6,500 of these on Ukraine every month. In April, it was 6,500, which is a significant amount. And Ukraine has become incredibly adept. We were talking about this on the security brief last week, which was all about Ukrainian drone technology. And the Ukrainians have developed what's called a counter uncrewed aerial system counter threat, which are taking out around 89 to 93% of these drones that are coming over into their airspace, which is a significant amount. So the questions I would start asking are, you know, where was this launched from? And if you look at sort of the geography of it, I think looking at the Crimea, I think it would probably have been a launch from Crimea to start with. The other thing, sort of big questions I've got as well, is there were 2 Romanian F-16s. I think we've got a visual of 2 F-16s actually that we can bring up, but effectively the US F-16 jet, the Iranians have them, and they were on what's called QRA, which is Quick Reaction Alert. Now, the press statement that's come out from the Romanians said that the radar systems of Romania were tracking this drone as it approached Romanian airspace, and the 2 F-16s were launched at about 1:20 in the morning. So there's a couple of questions like that, Martine, in terms of the response. If the radar was tracking this drone and the F-16s were airborne, the F-16s would carry an air-to-air missile, which would be able to take it out. Why didn't they do that? And there's a couple of answers to that, really. These drones, they fly incredibly low, down to about 50 feet over territory. And if that drone...
Yeah, but see, this is the problem, is the drone was over water for a while, and there's vast farmlands out there. So if they wanted to shoot the drone down, they could have, without any casualties. Instead, they let the drone go, and they crashed into a 10-story apartment building and injured 3 people, even a 14-year-old child. Now, I mean, if that makes any sense to you, I mean, something wrong, because it don't make no sense to me. Why wouldn't you just shoot the drone down and try to avoid your let me get that on the screen for y'all there too as well. One sec, y'all, and I'll get that up for y'all.
By any ceasefire, and it is completely useless for Iran to even think of signing a deal with the US while there is no end to war on all fronts, and it is useless for Iran to sign a deal with the US, a US that cannot even tame Israel before a deal comes into effect. Yeah. So without ending the war on all fronts, there will be no deal.
Mohanad, okay, but there's also a lot of pressure on Donald Trump. Is that, you know, we're seeing parts of his Republican Party, even some of the hawks in the Republican Party, really at the moment saying, well, what's this all for? And he's under pressure to get an advantageous deal.
Well, he's under pressure from 2 groups. One is demanding that he reaches a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and also get this war done so that they can get the prices of gas down, because it's putting their population under a lot of pressure. And the other group is the hawks. They are saying that what this war is all about, if it's not, you know, about regime change, if it's not bringing Iran to its knees or accepting at least the American demands. So he's a lot of, he's under a lot of domestic pressure. But I agree, with Ali that the war is detrimental to Iran, to Iranian economy, and also, but Iran, and he said that Iran cannot allow this to continue. It doesn't have many options really. Would it go back to war? But for the U.S., I think they do have some options, and they're trying to exercise that. What we are looking at here basically is both parties are trying to see the limits of patience of the other party. And I think Iran is waiting for the U.S. to give them a good enough deal, and I think vice versa. So there is a standoff here, and both parties are.
Yeah, that's them talking about the Iran stuff, the situation. Now let's get back to that here in a minute. Let's get back to what we was discussing about this Russia and Romania, because this situation is just getting out of hand with Russia invading airspace, Russia invading waters, maritime traffic, doing secret intelligence gathering on other NATO countries. Like this has been going on for months and 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 months, and it don't seem like it's getting any better. It just keeps on happening, and now we got one of the top officials in Russia saying that just shut up. Like, have these people lost their minds completely? Or like, literally.
When it enters Romanian airspace is over a built-up area, that's going to be hard for the F-16s to shoot that down. Now, the process of using an F-16 to shoot down a drone as well is not an easy procedure. The drones fly at around 120 miles an hour. An F-16 isn't supposed to be in the 120-mile-an-hour envelope. So the F-16s would have to be slow. They'd have to be close. And the F-16, I don't know if you've got that visual up. I don't have two-way here. But it's got a huge intake on the bottom of the aircraft, which will suck in any debris if the F-16 gets too close. So that could be a consideration. The other consideration as well is there's a lot of electromagnetic interference. It's called jamming and spoofing that the Ukrainians have developed. So it is a possibility and a thought. And a question I would certainly ask is that if the Ukrainians were jamming and certainly jamming in that area, and jamming means basically putting out electromagnetic waves into the atmosphere that would interfere with that drone's guidance system. That could also be a possibility in terms of the drone being put off its target because of this electromagnetic interference. So there's a lot of questions about this that I'd be asking, or I will be asking.
And we will come back to you when you've got the answers. Mikey, thank you very much, Mikey K.
Thanks, Martin.
Andreea Georgescu is a journalist with Romanian national news TV channel Digi24, and she has more details about the drone incident.
The incident was reported last night. It was almost 2 o'clock, and the first calls that were made for the emergency system in Romania reported a large fire on the last level of a 10-story building, apartment building in Galați. It's one of the cities, major cities in eastern Romania. It is very close to our eastern border with the Republic of Moldova, with Ukraine, and the first saviors that got there have taken the measures, have evicted the building, and then 2 people were taken to the hospitals. They are injured, slightly injured. They are safe now. We are talking about a woman, a 53-year-old woman, and her son, her 14-year-old son. They are both okay. We have just heard from medics in 2 hospitals in Galați that have stated that they are okay, they are safe, but they will be remaining under careful medical supervision in order for them to be okay. There is an investigation ongoing. Then there in Galați, there are militaries there, specialist experts, police officers. They are gathering all the drone fragments because they have to officially gather all the fragments in order to the investigation to state officially what has been already stated, that we are talking about a Russian drone that had been carrying military equipment and explosives that has led to this very serious incident. As you were saying, it is the most serious incident that has happened in Romania since the large-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine more than 4 years ago.
Andreea Georgescu from Digi24 in Romania. Well, you can read more about this story on our live page. Go to...
Now we also have another one here that we're going to be bringing up.
This guy is special. Not the whole thing's gonna fall apart. What makes him so special? I don't know. He's very real and funny and different. I like him. Ashamed of him. Sorry.
All right, well, I'm not going to try to figure it out in the middle of the show, so.
You know, spend some time with him. See what he's real.
They're very keen on having a deal that they can come back home and sell as a victory.
Yeah. Are you optimistic?
Not very much. And the reason is, we go back to trust. For example, how would they rebuild a trust between the two parties? I mean, there is no reason for Iran. I agree that Iran has zero trust.
Now, this is where they're talking about Iran and the United States making a deal, or if they're not going to make a deal, and talking about the new ceasefire. Now, I mean, I don't disagree about the ceasefire. I mean, with people not dying, that's great. Either side. I'm not just talking about the United States side. I'm talking about the Iranians too, because there's people fighting in this war that's trying to get a paycheck to try to feed their families. You know what I mean? Like there's not all bad people in the IRGC. I meant to say that. And I'm not saying that they're not all insane, or some of them are is not totally insane in bunkers, but they are for sure. And I'm not saying that there ain't no good people in the IRGC. They're forcibly just trying to make money to feed their family, which is understandable. But then again, there is other jobs out there that you could do. But I mean, we're going to see. I mean, we found out that Iran has been selling steel to China by shadow fleets, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. They've been still transporting their oil to China, so I mean, it's a little insane. But let's get to this real quick, and then we'll get to the shadow fleet
in the U.S., and I don't see any reason for Iran to trust the U.S. The issue is that it doesn't have many other options. And for the U.S., they have already gone to war. I don't think they will come back. And I don't talk about Trump only, President Trump. We're talking about the U.S. as a superpower. And they are, they have taken that choice. And I don't see them coming back empty-handed. So Iran would have to make real concessions when it comes to its nuclear capabilities and nuclear program. Otherwise, I don't see this war ending. And it's, Israel is the elephant in the room. But I think it's the U.S. now leading this war because the stakes are very high.
Ali, are you optimistic?
I'm not optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm realistic. To be realistic, you have to look at the ground realities. If Trump is confident that he can achieve his political and strategic goals by restarting the war, he will not wait for a second to do so. He has a lot of doubts about restarting the war. Why? Because he tried the war and it failed. He had counted on calculation that by restarting the war, Iran will collapse in 2-3 days, Iran will capitulate, but it did not happen. And while Israelis are pressuring him to restart the war, while the Israeli lobby in the US, senators like Lindsey Graham are pushing him to restart the war, there is no good prospects. If he restarts the war, he is almost sure that he will be in deep trouble. The world economy will come to its knees, and he has to face massive political and economic consequences. So the best option for him is to accept ground realities. He has to accept the fact that Iranians are not going to capitulate, and restarting the war has no good prospects for him.
Mohamed, you want to jump in?
Very quickly, the war did not fail, really, and did not, just like what Ali described, because they did degrade the Iranian capabilities. Iran now has 400 plus kilos of enriched uranium, up to 60%, but they cannot turn it into a nuclear bomb because they don't have the infrastructure. It's gone now. So Trump, while maybe he did not achieve all the strategic goals, that goal has been achieved, and he could go back and sell it at home with a deal as a victory.
Mohamed, thank you so much. Mohamed Saloom from the Doha Institute of Graduate Studies, and Ali Akbar Dareni from the Center for Strategic Studies in Tehran. Thank you both. The anti-migrant demonstrations and raids on foreign-owned business in South Africa continue to be on the rise. Multiple businesses in the town of Estcourt were ransacked on Friday. Critics say the protests are fueling xenophobic tensions. Authorities have stepped up crackdowns on undocumented migrants. Protesters blame illegal immigration and for crime and unemployment. Some migrants say they're living in fear. Haru Mutasa has more from the South African town of Estcourt.
I am in Estcourt, and this is a shopping mall. Looks like any other shopping mall in the country, but this is what happened here a few days ago. Some politicians and some locals said to foreign-owned businesses, you need to close down, and we must check your paperwork to make sure you can legally operate in this country. Those business owners then went to court. The court said, you know what, you can open your business and resume. That angered some South Africans, and then this is what happened. They came to this mall. They started ransacking the place, targeting foreign-owned businesses. This one belongs to a Kenyan. This one belongs to a Somali. They broke the window. They managed to get inside. And this store, you can tell it sold clothes and maybe a few other things. The protesters say they are telling foreigners in the country who are undocumented that you have until June 30 to leave the country, or else there will be trouble. Another store, this one belonged to a Pakistani, or belongs to a Pakistani. It is mainly a telecoms place. They sold cell phones and repaired cell phones and sold other telecom stuff. But you see the damage. Of course, people are aware that when these protests happen, there are criminal elements who take advantage.
I feel very, very, very bad. So I can't do nothing because already looted done. So we are scared to come to see shop. So we went police station. We come with the police, and so we can't do nothing.
What is your status here? Are you legal?
I'm illegal in the country.
In what sense? Explain to us. How are you?
We have a business permit here.
Okay. Why did you come to South Africa, and how do you feel now?
We came for business here. I came 2010. But from yesterday, I'm feeling very bad. I'm not feeling well because you can see what's going on and what happened yesterday. So heart was crying. Our all investment is here. We brought money from Pakistan to invest here. So we are zero right now. And we don't know how we stand up again.
It is a problem in the sense that there are genuine concerns from frustrated locals who say and feel that their government isn't doing enough about employment, crime, and corruption, and they want their politicians to deal with that.
Sianda Sturman is the lead insight and advocacy director at the consultancy Africa Practice. She says upcoming municipal elections in South Africa are playing a role in fueling the divisions.
So I think. Now, remember I told you I was going to bring up about the Shadow Fleet. Now, this right here is kind of disturbing to me. But I mean, it is a little disturbing when they see that we actually let ships by the blockade that was actually going to China. But I want to bring this up so y'all can see this for yourself. I just want y'all to see it. 90 million barrels. 90 million barrels.
Despite U.S. efforts to restrict Iranian maritime trade through the strait, Iran is turning to shifty strategies to keep going. One key factor is a hidden network backed by China that helps support Iran's oil black market. Iran is cooperating with China in an elaborate scheme to get Iranian oil to China to fund their wartime operations in an elaborate scheme using what's called a dark fleet. Now, let's uncover this. Iran has old aging ships that they've loaded oil on for years, and recently in months during the war, anticipating the war, we believe there's 90 million barrels of Iranian oil outside the Strait of Hormuz. They got that out before the blockade, and they've got roughly 1,500 ships of these aging ships. Now, here's the path. There's 3 phases. It starts in Iran. They load the old oil ships and send them all the way down here into what is a nautical no man's land called the Eastern Outer Port Limits. It's in the Strait of Singapore, just off the coast of Malaysia. And what happens there is the whole operations secrecy. They connect ship to ship to Asian, Chinese shipping ships that come in and they sit next to each other. They transfer the oil from the Iranian old ship into the new Asian ship, and they disguise it, mask it, and relabel it before it then goes up to China. Remember, 90% of Iranian oil is going to China. China gets 40% of all of their oil from Iran. This is the pipeline of the shadow fleet that's been going on. When they did the ship to ship, before they put them on there, they used disabling trackers to get the ships into this secret nautical no man's land. They paint over identity numbers of the ships so they can't be identified, and they change the flags from which the ships are coming from. And what happens when the ship happens, once it leaves the strait and heads to China, it's relabeled as being from a questionable Malaysian source, and it's not tracked, and it's all done illegally, despite U.S. sanctions specifically on this oil. Let's bring in now Fox Business's Lauren Simonetti, who has been on the tip of the spear of bringing us all of the important information. And Lauren, this is a big deal. Well, I tried to explain it there, but you know better than anyone. How significant is this?
That was great, Griff. I mean, and this is who we're dealing with. Folks that paint the identity numbers of ships and turn off the transponders to do something that is illegal by the international community. How big of a deal is this? Well, you said the numbers. There's 90 million or $9 billion worth of Iranian illicit oil on these old ships. And I want to point out the age because it means that there could be oil spillage. There could be a leak. They put that oil on those ships, and then they go undercover to send it to China, who buys 90% of their oil and keeps their economy afloat. We have had this blockade and we have had sanctions for years on the Iranian system. The reason that China is able to continue to pay Iran is because that oil was loaded before the blockade. It takes a few months to get to its destination. So with this system, Iran will still be paid by China through October. We have to wait this out.
Yeah, you know, Tanker Tracker gave you some satellite images, and I want to show our viewers. I think it's so significant. This is a collection of the months that we have been seeing this operation. There it is. All of these ships side by side. That is the illegal, illicit transfer of this oil. And actually, you are hearing this morning that there may be something more coming on this.
Okay, so these images are the clearest ones that we could find. This happening over the past few months, as we've noted, in an operation that's been choreographed for years. Thousands of these have taken place since the year 2019. If you look at the green ships in some of those photos, typically a green ship, as it appears on the satellite image, is the feeder ship. Right now, this morning, there is a stationary feeder that loaded just off of Karg Island in Iran. That's their main export terminal. And that feeder ship stays there. It keeps loading, and the red ships come up to it, hook up, they take the oil from the feeder ship, and they send it when they can through the Strait of Hormuz and down through that intricate pathway to the eastern outer ports limits and eventually to China. This rinse, wash, repeat. This is what they've been doing. We know about it. There's not much that you can do about it. China, what they do with all of this, they log zero imports of Iranian oil. They say they get nothing from Iran. Guess how much they got last year from Malaysia? Well, I should say in the first 4 months of this year, 126 million barrels of oil.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And so
they conceal it all.
To your point about not being able to do anything, we are seeing the administration take action. Late Thursday afternoon, the Treasury Department put out a list of sanctions that were specifically targeting this shadow fleet, this dark fleet. But the reality is, as we're laying out, once they get this scheme into the little nautical no man's land that we're showing, there really isn't much it seems we can do.
Yeah, you have to identify the ship, and if they have a tarp over it, or if they've blacked out the numbers and shut off the AIS signals, what can you do? It's also, you're dealing with Malaysia. Malaysia has somewhat of a neutral foreign policy. So this is very difficult to police. The sanctions don't necessarily matter because when China gets their oil, they call them teapot refineries. They don't even operate within the international banking system. So they're using Chinese currency and all that. And then China they cite, foreign and international law saying we don't have to abide by these sanctions in some instances because they'll hurt our economy because they need the oil.
Well, it seems the administration should put some pressure on China to knock this off and put an end to it. And as we watch the president now working out this potential peace deal with Iran, this may be a part of addressing it. Lauren Simonetti, your reporting has been fantastic, outstanding on this. And
be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello.
Now, we see where Iran is still it's still a little iffy about the Iran situation, really. I mean, we're going to see what happens with that. But we're going to go back to Romania situation.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond World is One. I'm Kanishka Sarkar, and over the next half an hour, I'll take you through all the global news action. Let's get started with the top headlines. Russian drone enters Romanian airspace and strikes an apartment building near the city of Galati, causing a fire. Defense Ministry says drone crossed from nearby attacks on Ukraine and crashed on the building roof. 2 people are injured. US and Iranian negotiators reportedly reach an agreement to extend ceasefire for 60 days and begin talks on Iran's nuclear program, pending approval from Donald Trump. While Iranian media reports that text has not been confirmed.
I apologize. Earlier I said that was a 90-day ceasefire. Let me rephrase that. That is a 60-day ceasefire. But I don't think both sides has agreed to the agreement yet. So I just wanted to rephrase that for the record.
Yet.
They negotiate. They're very good negotiators. They're crafty. But in the end, we have all the cards because we've defeated them militarily.
Donald Trump says U.S. holds strong leverage in negotiations with Iran. In a Fox News interview, the U.S. president added that his administration is ready to escalate if diplomacy does not produce results. A rocket built by Blue Origin, owned by Jeff Bezos, explodes during hot fire test on a launch pad in Florida ahead of a planned launch. Company says an anomaly occurred during testing but confirms all personnel are safe and accounted for. U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth trains with troops aboard USS Boxer in Singapore ahead of upcoming diplomatic talks. China's
That winning feeling you love? Bring it everywhere you go with the Hollywood Casino app. Your next big
With both nations possessing the
Now that's right when it happened. So like, I just want to let y'all know that this is not fresh attack. This is a footage of when the attack unfolded and the aftermath afterwards. Firefighters, got their quick response and put the fire out pretty fast. So there you see pieces of the Cheyenne drone. All right.
with both nations possessing the power to devastate entire continents in a matter of minutes.
Apologize, did not mean to have that on the screen. Let me get that up real quick. Sorry, y'all. But I mean, NATO allies are calling for restraint. But I mean, at this point, how many attacks does NATO got to have on their country before they actually respond? I mean, they're looking weak, very very weak. And ain't nobody said it better than Trish Regan. She talks about the attack as well. I'll pull her up just so you can see what she said here momentarily. As you can see there, we don't have no new alerts. Well, actually, I think we got one just come in. We got 1, 2, 3. We have a couple missile alerts.
in the hospital. And you know what? This is just uncalled for. If Europe would do what it needs to do, we probably wouldn't be in this situation right now.
Right.
You know, he's given them good advice, but they haven't taken it. And right now, we've got a bit of a situation over there in Romania where an apartment building was actually struck by one of these drones. It's believed to be a Russian drone, and it was being diverted out of Ukraine. You see here on the map, Romania has actually been a pretty good part of NATO. They've been one of the better players in this whole game, but
way better than Spain.
You know, if you don't have everybody on board, and this has always been my point about the darn EU, it's just a mess, okay? Because they don't have anybody strong leading them. So you got a bunch of countries that are acting in their own interest, and they got a freeloader problem that we have seen in spades. We have been, frankly, the victim of that freeloading because they freeload off of us, and then this happens.
She's right about that, though. I mean, you got to think. She said that Trump tried to warn the EU beforehand, and he did. He definitely did. And now they're going to see the consequences. We just pulled 10,000 troops out of Germany, and we're putting them in Poland. I mean, it's only going to go downhill from there for the EU. I mean, if they keep doing what they're doing, they literally sit here and used is a strong word, so I'm not going to say that. They sit here and rely on the United States to bail them out when they don't even want to pay the 5% of GDP for their forces. Now, other countries has done it already. Poland really has gotten crazy over the past couple of years, and we'll go over that as well if y'all want to. But anyways, let's get back to what she was saying. But it is crazy.
So some of this video coming into us from civilians there overseas in Romania. Again, I want to just bring you up to speed. It looks like that's some of the remnants of what had transpired. A building there getting hit, a 10-story civilian building. The drone actually hit the roof, causing an explosion and a fire. You had 2 civilians that were injured, albeit with minor injuries. Thank goodness. Residents were evacuated. The fire was quickly contained, and you're looking there at that fire that had happened. Now, look, it's not good. It's absolutely not good. And I would just keep going back to this, as we've said all along. You know what? This is going to continue getting bad if they don't do something, if they don't step up to the plate, for goodness sakes. I mean, we just wanted 5% of GDP. You know how much more we contribute? Come on. All right. And this is sort of the upshot of that. I want to go to some of the responses that we have seen from the U.S., from various countries, from the Romanian president, and of course from Vladimir Putin, who doesn't necessarily want to take any blame for any of this, and is even questioning whether or not this was a Russian drone. So we'll get to that. Here is the Romanian president saying the Russian drone, which crashed into the apartment building in Galati, was likely hit by Ukrainian air defenses. So his position is that, you know what, this was a Russian drone that was going in to hit Ukraine, and instead of hitting its target in Ukraine, it was diverted because the Ukrainians were protecting themselves, and then they wound up hitting, of course, Galati in Romania. Matthew Whitaker, he is our ambassador to NATO. He is saying, look, we stand by our NATO ally, Romania, and condemn this reckless incursion on its territory. Our thoughts are with the injured in Galati. We will defend every inch of our NATO territory. So that was an interesting commentary. We actually haven't heard from the president, and we haven't heard from Marco Rubio on that. But the U.S. ambassador to NATO coming out and saying, look, we stand by our allies, which is kind of the right thing to do. Not that they did that for us, right? Not that they did that for us. You've got Spain, which we're going to talk about in in depth here today because I have some theories on Spain, which just opened an embassy in Tehran, all while telling us and the rest of the world that the war is illegal. Yeah. So they're cozying up to Iran, and now they're condemning this, of course. And I kind of I just wonder what's going on there. We'll explore that a little bit. But don't forget, Marco Rubio has been very emphatic about Spain. They're not contributing. They refuse to contribute. Totally refuse to contribute to NATO. I mean, they're just like giving everybody the middle finger. No, we're not going to do our 5%. And Marco was just over there in Rome with the Prime Minister of Rome, Giorgia Meloni, and he could have called her out because, you know what, she didn't allow us to use Sigonello, our base in Sicily, but instead he pointed his remarks directly, precisely, at little Pedro Sanchez in Spain.
Europe, some countries in Europe, like Spain as an example, denied us the use of those bases for a very important contingency that in some ways the denial of those bases actually impeded the mission, not severely, but had a cost and in fact even created some unnecessary dangers. So if one of the main reasons why the U.S. is in NATO is the ability to have forces deployed in Europe that we could project to other contingencies, and now that's no longer the case, at least when it comes to some NATO members, that's a problem and it has to be examined. But ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make. His team and people like myself and others will provide him what those potential options are, but ultimately he'll have to make that decision.
Hey, Mike, what is that?
That's Iron Beam, your go-to place for futures trading.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Yeah, and you know what? He's made the decision because that was a couple of days ago. You know, time flies. And he's made the decision, and he's pulling troops out. He's pulling troops, 10,000 of them, right out of Germany. He actually, it's almost like they knew. They kind of knew. Remember the other day they came forward and they said, we're going to put 5,000 more into Poland. And they've said, hey, you know, Romania's done a good job. Poland's done a good job. Germany, you definitely haven't. And we're taking 10,000 troops. And not only that, we're going to slap some tariffs on your car manufacturers if you don't get your act together and start committing or following through, I should say, on the commitments that you have already made, right, to make those investments here in the U.S. I mean, Germany said, we'll do this, that, and the other, and then they haven't bothered. And so now they got an extension on the deadline. Donald Trump said, we'll give you to July 4th, our 250th birthday, and if you don't do it by then, woohoo, we're going to tariff you. And so he's threatening that. I will say this is very interesting, okay? So we've said repeatedly, guys, get your freaking act together. Start spending money. Start investing. Okay, because we can't do it forever like we have been. 81 years is enough. You are firmly on your own 2 feet. You are all grown up. You have mature economies. So do what you need to do, for goodness sake.
Yeah, y'all make sure y'all start investing. Crypto coins to watch out for is Pepe, Shiba coin, Shiba Inu coin, should I say. So that is Pepe, Shiba Inu coin, Doja coin, Flacca's not a bad one. It's seen some declines in the past few months, so
and we are taking our toys and going home, so to speak, right? All the submarines are coming out. Our jets are coming out. And Marco Rubio sat up there in Sweden and he told them last Friday, you know what, you guys should be okay with this because we've been telegraphing it over and over and over and over again. I mean, how many times have we talked about it here on this show? And so today he was meeting with his counterpart from Pakistan, I imagine, talking about the Iran deal. We'll get to that because new developments there that we got to discuss as well. Boy, oil's been tanking, right? What'd I tell you? Watch those oil markets. They give you a lot of insight into what's going on and whether or not we're going to get a deal. But Marco Rubio was asked by a Newsweek reporter as the two of them came out for the photo op, and oh my gosh, Marco couldn't get out of there fast enough. Look at him. He's like pulling a Karen Bass. Remember when Karen Bass got back from Africa and he was in the middle of the fires? And they're like, hey, you know, do you have a comment? And she just kind of looked through the guy. Marco's pulling one of those moves. At least he's sort of smiling for the camera. But watch this carefully. Okay, so they're coming out. You know, they're going to talk to reporters theoretically until this reporter asks this.
Mr. Secretary, your
He said, Mr. Secretary, your reaction to the Russian drone striking Romania. Woo! Marco's like, hi. He said, are we going to defend Romania? And Marco's like, yes, see ya. Okay, we're not going to get into that one today because we know what's going on. We're taking our toys and going home. We already said that, did we not? Right? This came out just a couple of days ago, like 3 days ago. I'll tell you, you know what? Europe's not listening to us. When we say we're going to take our troops, we're going to take our equipment, we are done. We want you guys to be strong on your own. And apparently, as long as mom and dad are there paying the checks, you guys don't feel inclined to get a job.
Right? And that's been going on for years now. Years and years and years and years and years and years. Oh, just about as long as this Iran situation. Longer, but my dog cat over there. But anyways,
meaning you don't feel inclined to actually do what you need to do. And so mom and dad have to say, you know what, we're going to do the little tough love here. And the little tough love is going a long way, except that now we get a situation where the only one that pays attention to our tough love happens to be Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin's sitting there and he's going, okay, they're going to pull out the jets, the destroyers and the submarines from NATO as part of that European drawdown. You know, and the thinking is, if there's a method to the madness here, that maybe they're kind of in Russia saying, well, let's give this a little bit of a test run, right? Let's see what NATO does.
Right? Let's push. Let's push. Let's push a little bit. Let's just give it a little test. Let's give it a little test. Let's give it a little taparoo. Let's tap it in. But I don't know. I mean, y'all let me know what your thoughts is. I mean, I definitely think this situation is going to get a little bit intense because of the situation, but we'll see what happens. I mean, you don't know. Definitely don't think the United States is going to defend anybody in Europe right now. If you want my opinion, I mean, I don't think that the United States is going to let anybody invade anybody. If that is the case, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, Europe has been really nasty to us, just like Spain has been really nasty to us, and not letting us use their bases and stuff when we helped them. Well, when we helped them out so much, it is crazy. Just like when this Iran situation came about. I mean, they didn't even let us use their bases in Diego Garcia. But yeah, I mean, things get heated really fast when they know that they don't have the backup that they did. Let me just say that. 10,000 troops is a lot of troops when it comes to enforcing a country or enforcing an invading front. Because I mean, for them having 130,000 troops, they would have to have 80,000 troops just to hold the lines, or 60,000, somewhere around there, to hold the lines, if you want to know. And that's 100,000 troops, and that's what Russia has been training with on Milwaukee Gap, on the border of the Milwaukee Gap, but right on the border of Poland and stuff. So, like, it's really hairy. It's a really hairy situation. So we're gonna see what unfolds with it. Let's get back to Trish. We'll hear what she's got to say.
Let's see what happens. I mean, the U.S. says they're not going to defend them. And I don't think we want to. So what is NATO going to do? Anything? Here's Matthew Whitaker, again, the ambassador to NATO that says, hey, we'll stand by NATO through all of this, who just 2 weeks ago was making the point that NATO has got to show up and they've got to write a check.
What we accomplished last year in The Hague by getting the 5% political agreement now has to turn into real capabilities. Things like ships and tanks and air defense systems. And those are the kind of issues that right now we are pushing our allies hard to get that done. And we're going to have a big summit in Ankara, Turkey, this summer, where we're going to get a report card on what our allies have done, and we're expecting significant investments from last year in The Hague.
Yeah, where do you think our European allies and European countries stand when it comes to this vision?
Yeah, I think in the last year they've spent $100 or $200 billion more than they had, all because of President Trump and what he's done to rejuvenate this alliance and to bring strength finally to this alliance. And the commitments are there politically, but it's the year over year, the hard work. And so I'm expecting this year we're going to see another more than $100 billion.
Okay.
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned oil company.
I think they're going to be spending some money, okay? And I think we're going to tell them, you know what? You guys better spend some money because you actually have a real threat. And mom and dad are not going to be there to lock the doors every night, okay? Because we just can't. And the reason we can't is because we have a lot of other things going on. And sometimes Europe becomes a distraction. It's a distraction, all right? Because, you know, you got the whole thing in Ukraine. And look, it's not that it's just a distraction. I think that diplomacy should have been used in the Ukraine situation, and that unfortunately blew into a big problem that the world, frankly, did not need. But, you know, we can't go back in time. Biden was in office, so there you go. You had the B team with Blinken running the show, and nobody was really able to get anything done. So now you get that problem. But we're looking at it saying, okay, we're putting all these resources in. All right, fine. You know, we want to fulfill our NATO obligations. And then what happens when push comes to shove and we need these guys? We need these guys? Where are they? Well, they're nowhere to be found, and no one appreciates.
We really didn't need them. It's just that this was a test to see if they was actually going to be there when we actually asked them to be. And they definitely terribly, horribly failed. I mean, definitely terribly failed. The only thing they asked is to help to guide ships to the Hormuz Strait. Not win a war, not fight in a war, not invade a country, not do amphibious landing, not do black ops, guide ships, be a babysitter. And they flat out said no. They didn't say, oh, we're a little booked up right now, it's going to take a little time, didn't give stall tactic or anything. They literally said no. And another thing, they said that we couldn't use their bases in Diego Garcia at first. Can't talk today. And literally that changed when they found out that Iran was lobbing missiles at Diego Garcia. But by that time, we've already had bases lined up in the towards the Baltic and stuff. I don't know.
That. Believe me, no one, including the President of the United States, none of this is going unacknowledged by him.
Someone told me just before I entered here, a drone...
Forgive me. We'll get to him. The one that seems to be noticing some of this and might be actually using this as an opportunity to just kind of test the waters a little bit might be Vladimir Putin. I mean, it would be a sensible thing to do, right? And I think he's a pretty sensible, shrewd, smart guy. He also is trying to temper the situation and kind of cool temperatures here today. If you see him, he was, I think, in Kazakhstan, and he was speaking with the press earlier, and he had just found out that this thing went down. And he basically came out and said, well, how do we even know that this thing is ours? Like, let's take a minute here. Let's take a pause. Let's go to Vladimir Putin, and there's a translation off of YouTube here for you.
Someone told me just before I entered here, a drone entered the Romanian airspace. No, I don't know. What drone? So please tell me, what's the information in the media now? A drone hit a residential building in Romania. And they say it's a Russian drone. Who says that it's a Russian drone? Many people. Many people means no one. Precisely who? Names. Ursula von der Leyen. Well, she didn't go to Romania. She didn't investigate. She didn't look at the remnants of the drone. No one can say where a flying vehicle came from before they run a forensic analysis, because some drones, Ukrainian drones, enter Finnish airspace, Polish airspace, the Baltic countries' airspace. Ukrainian drones do that. And the first reaction was exactly the same like they have now in Romania. Russians are hitting us, they were saying. And then they found out that these drones had nothing to do with Russia. Russia had nothing to do with these drones. They came from Ukraine. They strayed off under the influence of jammers or for whatever other reason, maybe some technical error or deficiency. And I believe that the same is happening here, has happened here. And until we receive some objective data, if we receive these data from them, and then we can share our estimates of what happened.
Parents of children who play Roblox. If your child...
It's really interesting, right? And so I imagine that this is one of the reasons why Marco Rubio, when he came out for the photo op and they asked him about Romania, he did like he did a figure 8 and like went straight back in and was like, I'm out of here. And it's why President Trump is probably waiting a minute here to just make sure that we know what's going on. I see some of you guys think that Putin is making a point. I will say this. If you've ever watched Madam Secretary, there's a whole episode. This was like before Trump was in office, so you got to go back a few years, try and catch the reruns if they're on Netflix still. And they do a whole thing on how there was a total psych op out of Ukraine. So if you watch that episode and then you hear Putin there, you might be like, So we don't know, but I think it's fair to say let's make sure that we get all the data. Right now, I would say that everybody is just concerned that whatever happened, you shouldn't have drones flying around Europe, right? And maybe if we weren't in this war to begin with, we wouldn't have that complication. I would say that Dmitry Medvedev was not quite as diplomatic, shall we say, as one Vladimir Putin. However, he I guess he has a way with words. I'll read you his response. And this is the guy who's the Russian Security Council deputy chairman. He said, he was actually the former president as well, the Euro impotence. Okay, so this is just, all right, he's starting off hard. The Euro impotents are screaming about some drone hitting a Romanian residential building. Okay, a drone did hit a Romanian residential building. Of course, it is necessary to determine whose drone it was. Yes, we can agree with that. But in any case, he said, and this is on the equivalent of like their, what is it called, Max or something? It's like their Twitter. He said, but in any case, all EU countries need to shut up on this matter. So that's a little abrupt. European states are direct participants in the war against Russia. So just shut up. This is just the beginning. The peaceful sleep is over. Dmitry, did you really have to go there? I mean, really? I mean, look at what the boss did. He kind of punted and said, let's get more information. That was a more tactful way of dealing with this at this moment in time. But Dmitry's, And so that is suggesting that, maybe there's more where that came from. I don't think anybody wants that. Everybody would like this war to be over. I understand a war's a war and things happen. But you know what? This should be the wake-up call. How many times do we have to pound on their door to get these, he calls them impotents. I was going to say the silly Europeans. It's a translation thing. How else do we have to tell them this? Here's Representative McCall, who's the Republican from Texas, and he was just, I believe this is from today, sitting down with the Carnegie Foundation. The Carnegie Foundation, which would like us to basically still run NATO, and he's trying to explain to them what the president's idea here is, because financially it's just not possible, and we need to focus on other things, and we don't need a bunch of little kids, hanging around and not, well, they're not little, okay? What am I saying? Like, they are full-grown adult kids hanging around and demanding, and we just can't do it anymore. So here's Representative McCall speaking with the president of the Carnegie Foundation, trying to explain this today.
The NATO alliance has kept us out of a world war for 80 years, so it has value. I think what the president's trying to do is, it was a parent-child relationship, and the child needs to grow up and be an adult and learn how to take care of themselves. But we should still be there. And our rhetoric should not be one that is condescending or disrespectful.
It treats NATO as something external to the United States, basically.
It's just basically, you need to grow up. But diplomacy, when I talk to General Mattis or people of his caliber, they say there are really three elements of power. There's economic, there's military, everyone gets that one, and there's diplomatic. And you need all three legs of the stool. You can't take out the diplomatic power, because if you do, as General Mattis said, you're going to have to buy more bullets.
So I agree with John, who said he has about 5% faith in the Carnegie Foundation, and 5% is actually a little bit generous. I gotcha. Anyway, you guys are wondering where little Pedro is. Little Pedro Sanchez. Spain has been very, very aggressive about, oh my gosh, this is terrible from Russia, terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm like, Spain, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to send us into World War III or something? What's the idea here? Are you like some kind of double agent? You're the ones that just went over there and got that lovely embassy in Tehran, right? The only Western nation to do so. So here is little Pedro. Okay, he's making a statement. My strongest condemnation of the incursion and explosion of a Russian drone on Romanian territory. He's expressing full solidarity with the affected civilians, with Romania and its people. Russia's violations of international law are unacceptable. I mean, that's kind of extreme, right? Because this could have been a legit mistake, and it actually could have been a mistake by the Ukrainians, and actually the Romanian president has said that might have been. But I digress. Let's finish with little Pedro here. He likes to sound like a big cheese. He's going down, by the way, like the corruption stuff, etc. He's got a very, very bad outcome awaiting him likely in Spain. Spain remains committed to the eastern flank and to the securities of its allies. So Russia's violations of international law, he said, are unacceptable. So he's ratcheting it up, just like Dmitry is, right? I mean, they're looking for some kind of power. Let's go over to Giorgia Meloni, who's a little bit more diplomatic. Italiana. Okay, so she said last night a Russian drone struck a civilian building in Romania. She's telling everybody injuring 2 citizens, etc. She did say this is an extremely serious act, which demonstrates how this war of aggression spares no one, continuing to brutally target innocent civilians, disregarding all limits and putting European security at risk. My deepest sympathy and solidarity go out to those affected, to the Romanian government, and to all the Romanian people. So, a more diplomatic, shall we say, measured response, and that she's making the point that we're at war here, right? And this is very serious, and these are the things that happen. And she's giving them room to say, yeah, this was probably a mistake. And that's what it's believed to be right now, guys. I mean, I should say the consensus is that this was some kind of mistake, but there is a feeling that these mistakes might be happening a little bit too often. I think there's something like 25 to 47 of these that have happened. Let me go over to Germany for a moment. This is our friend Fred Merz, think I Love Lucy, little Freddie. Friedrich Merz, who's also on his way out. So between little Pedro and little Freddie, they got some problems over there in Europe. Russia's, and he's sounding very strong here. reckless drone incursion into Romania. I mean, guys, are you not given one single minute to think about, yeah, the Ukrainians were probably trying to shoot it down and that's how it wound up going off into other airspace? I mean, even the Romanian president is saying that. Nobody's willing to talk about that. Russia's reckless drone incursion into Romania shows once again Russia's willingness to escalate. Germany stands with our NATO allies. The incident once again underscores the need for strong NATO posture on the eastern flank. We are ready to defend every inch of allied territory. You better believe it, because we just came out with our first defense report, 35 pages. I think they could have come up with more than that, right? You know, it's been 81 years, guys. You've probably been sitting around some of your think tanks, you know, fantasizing about this day. And all you had was 35 pages. Well, they are going to, they say, in Germany, lead the way forward for NATO. So now they got their big opportunity, I guess. Meanwhile, Spain is on our naughty list. Spain, who I think, oopsie daisy, was the most aggressive, if you would, of all of the Europeans with their statement. Let's go back to it for just a quick second. Spain's reaction, little Pedro saying that Russia's violations of international law are unacceptable. Gosh darn it. It's like he's talking about us. Remember, we're the ones that are illegal. We are the ones with la guerra that's illegal because, you know, it's immoral, unjust. I don't know. I don't go through all his adjectives, but he made it very clear that we were also in violation of international law. I'm just saying. Okay, so little Pedro's getting all worked up, and this is little Pedro who said it was not okay for us to use our bases in Rota and Marone because